Welcome back to the Astrology Report. My name is Cam White, and this is going for December 19th through the 25th of Christmas. This week, we have a lot going on. This week, we have Jupiter going back into Aries. This is something I'm really looking forward to because we finally get another chance at what we started off in May. We have the sun going into Capricorn. As you can see, I am ready for Capricorn season. We have the new moon in Capricorn immediately following the ingress in the winter solstice. I almost said summer solstice. We have the new moon in Capricorn. We have Venus making a trine to Uranus as well, and Mercury making a sextile to Neptune. At this point, Mercury is still in shadow, so these are all things that we're going to be coming back over again here really soon. But a lot of this week is focused on making the plan, sticking to the plan, and executing that plan, right? So let's go ahead and get started. We're starting Monday off with the moon conjoining the south node and making a sextile to Venus. So I left off last week with the moon making an ingress into Scorpio, feeling that kind of darkness, feeling that kind of emotional turmoil. And that's really what we continue on to into Monday. As the moon's in Scorpio, there are these angsty feelings, there are these kind of gross, purging out feelings. And Monday's an excellent day to purge. The moon's going to be conjoining the south node, where the south node is this release. It's something that we have to get rid of. And in Scorpio, we're talking about darkness. We're talking about the things that are underneath the ground that no one sees, that we don't talk about with other people. And those things might be holding us back, right? The same roots that give us a foundation might be the same things that keep us stuck. And this moon conjoining the south node, this is a waning moon. We're getting ready for this new moon in Capricorn. What do you emotionally need to get over and let go of in order to move forward? Because that's what this moon transit's all about. And especially on Monday as the moon as the moon conjoins the south node, letting go of things, purging things out. And on Monday as the moon makes the sextile to Venus, it's good. Not everything has to be this, emotional, fluffy, I'm just trying to live my best life and that kind of stuff. Like, if you have a goal, what are you willing to do to get to that goal? Are you willing to just do a few things and stop whenever you feel uncomfortable? Or are you willing to do whatever it takes? And this is one of those moments where you might have to check in and ask, am I willing to do what it takes? As the moon conjoins the south node in Scorpio, this is a time to kind of get over those emotions. This is a time to purge that out. And as it sextiles Venus in Capricorn, with all this Capricorn stuff, we're talking about serious, what I like to, my Gen Z generation likes to, call adulting. And sometimes it feels really good to just kind of get over something and be a fucking grown-up and just say, you know what? This is just how it is. I'm going to get over my bullshit. I'm going to move on, and I'm just going to, go to work. Not letting your emotionally bad experiences affect your whole day. You can have those negative emotions. They're not something to suppress. They're not something to ignore, but they're something for you to work through. And I think Monday is an excellent day to work through these negative emotions that you have and things that you're just holding on to that aren't serving you anymore, right? Is it helpful or is it harmful? Is it helping you to hold on to these past negative stories, or is it harming you in terms of going where you need to go? Doing what you need to do. And I think as the moon makes that conjunction to the south node, it is going to take some purging, it is going to take some letting go, but think about how free you can feel. Something I talked about maybe a few weeks ago of the difference between Scorpio and Sagittarius is, imagine Sagittarius is up here and it's positivity, faith, and hope, and down here is Scorpio and it's negativity, depression, anxiety. And the process of going through Scorpio is, imagine a rubber band in between these two things, and you pull that rubber band down all the way. And at a certain point, you let go of that shit. And when you let go, all of that stuff, you just pretty much jump all the way up into the good stuff. And this is what I think this is what a lot of Monday and Tuesday is about, is going through that process of pulling things down. You're going to feel weighted down, but when you let go, you free yourself of these things. And I think as the moon's making the sextile to Venus, it doesn't have to be this, coddling, comfortability. And there are days for that, but this isn't the day. This is the day of suck it up. Deal with it, move on from it, because holding on to this bullshit is harming you more than it's helping you. It's time to do something different. And I think Monday's an excellent day for all this stuff. We get on into Tuesday. The moon is then going to go opposite Uranus. Wait, before I do that, okay, last week I forgot stuff, so I want to make sure I didn't forget anything. On Tuesday, the moon is going to go opposite Uranus. It is then going to square Saturn, and then it is going to trine Neptune as Jupiter goes into Aries. So before we talk about Jupiter going into Aries, let's talk about this moon transit. Because when you first let go of something, it's super easy to think all right, I'm ready for this, I can do this, it's not going to be any issue, but you're going to have roadblocks and obstacles thrown in your way. If you want to, let's say, quit an addiction, start a new diet, start start a new business or whatever, and it takes you all of this, momentum and all this energy, and it's all this excitement, all this ambition. Tuesday's when you're gonna get those roadblocks. And it's really important to understand that this is not the day to let these roadblocks win. As the moon makes this opposition to Uranus, for example, if you are going to quit an addiction, and you did the purge, you did the cleanse, and now you're like, all right, I'm ready. What are you going to do when you get triggered? Because this is a triggering moment. When you are going through something new and you're trying to make a big difference in your life, you have to give yourself other plans and other options to overcome these triggers. And on Tuesday, you're going to get triggered with something that's going to make you feel like you have to revert back to your old ways. And I really hope that you don't do that. The moon is going to go opposite Uranus, and there's going to be something that gets thrown in your plans or something that sporadically changes that makes you, again, emotionally all over the place. You're going to go through this turmoil. And you should just expect that, right? Your first day is not going to be easy. The first step is not going to be easy. And you have to know that you're going to have things thrown in your way that are going to try to avert you from the path that you want to go on. But what are you more committed to, right? Are you committed to feeling good, or are you committed to doing what it takes? And I think as the moon goes opposite Uranus, there is this all of a sudden something happens, all of a sudden something gets thrown in your face, all of a sudden something changes, and you have to be the one to say no. The moon is then going to make this square to Saturn where it's like a lot of resistance. In both ways. Like, there's a lot of resistance from the universe, from whatever it is that you're pursuing. There's a lot of resistance from yourself in pursuing whatever it is that you want to do. And I think on Tuesday, it's an excellent day to just know that you're going to be in that place of resistance. That doesn't mean that you need to change course. That doesn't mean that you need to throw all your hard work down the toilet. It's just a day where you know it's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard. And this is a really good day to stay where you're at, right? When times are tough, you got to keep going. And on Tuesday, I want you to really remember that, because there's going to be all of these things that make you go, oh, well, I should go back, or I should do this and I should do that. And this isn't the time for that, right? We're getting into this dark moon phase before this new moon where we really get to reset things. And you might be setting off in something, you might be in order to make this new start with this new moon in Capricorn, it's going to take some purging out of stuff, right? And those first few days are going to be difficult with this. As the moon makes that square to Saturn, there is this resistance, there is this, wall that is in front of you, and you don't need to put all of your effort in to push through it. Maybe you just need to understand that resistance is there and maybe take a pause. This isn't about going, oh, well, I have this resistance, I got to go backwards, or I have this resistance, I have to push through everything. You have this resistance, and before you just keep pushing through with everything, have a little check-in. Are you ready to do what it takes, or are you ready to get uncomfortable to do what it takes? I think these are probably the best questions to ask. The moon is then going to make a trine to Neptune right after it squares Saturn, where the moon trining Neptune can get you into this fog, can get you into this confusion of like, well, gosh, what's the best thing I should do? Well, I don't know if this is right, and maybe I should go back, and maybe I should do this. But maybe look at this as like a hallucination. You have to understand that, maybe what you see is there, but it's not real. All of this stuff is in your head. And I think as the moon makes this trine to Neptune, I think this is an excellent time for one, you might get caught up in, imaginary fears. You might get caught up in these anxieties, and you might be making all of these kind of stories. But as it trines Neptune, try to understand that, these are figments of your imagination. Try to understand that this is not what it appears to be. And that I also think with the moon trining Neptune, try to use those hallucinations to your advantage, right? Anything can be done in this world. Anything that's been said to be impossible has been possible, right? Humans probably thought that we'd never be able to fly, and lo and behold, we've been fucking flying. Now we're in space. And I know that's kind of corny, positive, I guess, like advice, but this moon trining Neptune, I think, is an excellent day to try to contort things in a way that motivates you, right? Like, something I love about the moon in Scorpio is like, there's nothing more motivating than like resentment. There's nothing more motivating than like revenge. And try to use those negative emotions to push you into the area that you want to go. Again, when the moon hits Saturn, there is this resistance that's there, and it's Saturn in Aquarius, right? It's very like, ideas and systems and authority figures and these walls. And as the moon trines Neptune, it's like, let's try to use this energy in a, for lack of a better term right now, like a spiritual way. The big thing here is as the moon's trining Neptune, this is when Jupiter goes back into Aries, guys. What did you start in May? Like I said last week, in May, when Jupiter entered Aries and there was this Mars-Jupiter conjunction in Aries, it was like we started something, and what I was really saying was Jupiter in Aries is like you just kind of have to be like the Kool-Aid man. You kind of just have to bust through the wall and worry about the confidence later. Just fucking do it. Just commit and do it. And then as time went on, we realized that maybe we bit off more than we could chew. Maybe that was a little bit too much. And as Jupiter went retrograde, we really were rethinking how, our capabilities, our actions, our ability to confront, our ability to attack. Jupiter is now back in Aries, where we have much more foresight and we have much more knowledge to apply. Jupiter is all about faith, belief. In the sign of Aries, we're talking about action. We're talking about initiation. We're talking about like that spark, that creative spark of life. And I think as Jupiter goes into Aries, there is this momentum to say, you know what? This is what I'm taking on. This is what I'm starting. Jupiter is all about faith and belief, and it's in the sign of action. It's in the sign of the self. It's in the sign of like identity. It's in the sign of, attacking and war. And this is one of those times to come back to that, one of my favorite quotes is no fear and do it anyway. No fear as in K-N-O-W. No fear and do it anyway. And so there's a lot of fear coming up with this moon in Scorpio squaring Saturn, but you got to do it anyway. Like my family crest, I can't remember the Latin version of it, but the white family crest that's part of my lineage is courage conquers all. And I really think this is the day to have that courage. This is the day to say, you know what? I know that I'm afraid. I know that I have this fear, but I'm going to push through and do it anyway. And I think as the moon trines Neptune, I think about, I was just listening to like a reel on Instagram of like a Joe Rogan clip, and he was talking about this woman who, she ran like this 300-mile marathon in Utah, and she like only slept like 1 minute through it, and she said she was like hallucinating during this whole run, and she like used that to her advantage. And it's like one of those things where you are going to be kind of tripping, and it's one of those, it's same thing, if you've ever done mushrooms, if you've ever done acid, all of a sudden things kind of get negative. Like, it's really easy to lean into all of that fear. But this is the point where you get to a breakthrough. Breakdowns lead to breakthroughs. And this is one of those moments where you might have a breakdown, but allow that to happen if you want to go to the breakthrough side, if you want to get to that other side. This is really important. I love Jupiter in Aries. This really changes the game when we start talking about, this is what I'm going for, this is what I want to do, this is what I'm, taking assertive action on. And this is Jupiter. This is about belief. This is about faith. This is about, yes, Jupiter can be idealism. Jupiter can be, these bigger ideas that are hard to, articulate. But with Jupiter and Aries, our faith is embedded into our actions. And if you don't have faith or a belief that you can do something, well, if you do it, then you'll believe that you can do it. You just have to do it first. Like the belief comes after the action, not the action comes after the belief. Like oftentimes we think, oh, well, if I just believe I can do it, or if I just, I have to believe I can do it first before I can do it. It's not working that way this time. This is like, you have to just do it first. And then when you do it, you'll go, wow, I really do believe I can do this. So then we get into Wednesday. The moon will then ingress into Sagittarius. It will make a trine to Jupiter. And that's really early in the morning. It will then go opposite Mars throughout the whole day, and the sun goes into Capricorn. This is the winter solstice. We are at equal day, equal night. The sun will eventually start coming up a little bit more, but that's gonna take some time. We're not there yet. Well, actually say the sun will be coming up more. The sun comes up more. I sometimes get my astronomy fucked up. I have a lot to think about with this astrology stuff. Anyway, though, the moon in Sagittarius, as it ingresses, honestly, it ingresses really late on Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. But this is that difference of Scorpio and Sagittarius, right, that I was just talking about. The Scorpio stuff is all of this, negative emotion and all this fear, but there's a lot of power there too. And then the moon goes into Sagittarius, and there's this freedom that comes into play. There's this sense of fun and ambition and an exploration, and it's going to immediately make a trine to Jupiter, where the second you push through, the second that you overcome those fears, and the second that you just do it anyway, you're going to get fucking shot with a fuck ton of adrenaline, if you want to call it. This is a really big day. As the sun goes into Capricorn, the sun is our will. Yes, the sun is still in Sagittarius at this moment. The sun doesn't ingress into Capricorn until later on Wednesday evening. The sun going into Capricorn, this is our will, this is our energy, this is our vitality, and it's in Capricorn. This is like strict discipline. This is, being a fucking grown-up, being an adult, being real about shit. Think about Capricorn season ancestrally. Evolutionarily, it's winter, it's cold. We used to live in ice ages, and this isn't the time to, whine and complain. This is the time to go hunt the megafauna. This is the time to, eat the bones off the carcasses and live off the bones. This is something I really like about Capricorn season, is like bones and like salt and like just the bare minimum to get you by. But it's that, taking away all the things that you think you need and only relying on the things that you actually need really shows you that you don't actually need all of this stuff. You only need what you need, easy and everything else is extra. Everything else is great. But as the moon goes into Sagittarius, there is this looking at the bigger picture, looking at the plan. This is our emotions, this is our body getting involved with what is our vision, what is the bigger picture, what are we hoping to do, what are we inspired to do? And as that moon makes a trine to Jupiter, at first thing in the morning Wednesday, a lot of confidence, a lot of, just really seeing like, once you push through, it's like, wow, what else is possible? Later on though, the moon will start going opposite Mars for the whole day, where it's kind of like one of those things where when you first overcome something and there's all of this confidence that gets instilled, well then it's gonna get a little confusing. Where do we go from here? Now what's next? And so as the moon goes opposite Mars, there will be some problems getting thrown in your way. You're gonna wanna do this, you're gonna do that. It's kind of like, if you've overcome something really big in your life and all of a sudden, you feel this inspiration, you're like, well, I wanna try this and I wanna try that. And you're gonna be a little bit all over the place. So try to not do that. It might be kind of hard because you might just kind of get lost in the sauce when it comes to like, it's like when you take on one thing, you're like, well, now I wanna do this and now I wanna do it and I can conquer everything. But I think that's gonna just feel overwhelming, and Mars is retrograde in Gemini. Don't worry about all these other extra things right now. Worry about what's in front of you. Worry about the plan, right? Make a plan, stick to the plan, execute. That's a stupid quote from Storks. It's a kid's movie, but holy shit is it so funny. Make a plan, stick to the plan, always deliver. Like that is the Capricorn motto right now. And so as the moon goes opposite Mars, don't worry about what you can and can't do. Don't worry about all of the details, right? Just worry about getting yourself in the right place emotionally to get ready for this new moon, where the new moon is really laying down the concrete. The new moon is really about doing everything that needs to get done. So then we move to Thursday. And on Thursday, the Venus is gonna make a trine to Uranus. The moon will then sextile Saturn and make a square to Neptune. So kind of a confusing day on Thursday. I think as Venus makes a trine to Uranus, Venus is all about fun. Venus is all about pleasure. She's in Capricorn. She likes tradition. She likes playing by the rules. She likes business. She likes fancy things. She likes being classy. And I think as Venus is in Capricorn, we're really enjoying, right? Having a structure, having a system, having, just the bare minimum, doing things by the rule book, doing things by tradition. Venus has a lot of fun with that stuff. And then Venus is going to make a trine to Uranus, where Uranus is this, yes, it's instability, yes, it's this spark of innovation, but this is a trine. This is a positive relationship between these two planets. And as Venus makes a trine to Uranus, this is one of those days where if you just have fun with whatever plans that you have to do, and if you just have fun with enjoying the work, enjoying the monotony of the day-to-day, there is gonna be some type of creative burst. There's gonna be this kind of sudden insight into like, oh, well, this is how I can do this with a lot more fun. It's like, if you're not, for example, if like you're one of those people, I know I make cleaning room analogies all the time, but it's such a simple thing that can really make or break. I mean, like I'm someone that's anal about my spaces. Like everything has to be really, really clean. And I used to not be that way. I used to be kind of, I wouldn't say filthy, but I'm a guy. Like I was just a teenager and lazy and fucking shit was all over the place. And it wasn't until I had like fun with it, like when it comes to doing business and it comes to work, there's ways that you can have fun. Put on some music, listen to that podcast that you've been wanting to listen to. And those are very simple. That's not nearly encompassing, I think, the dramatization that Uranus is, because Uranus is very like unstable, sudden breakthrough, liberation. But as Venus is in Capricorn and you're playing by these rules, there is this fun and excitement. It's like, and if you play by the rules too, it's kind of like me wearing the suit and talking about Capricorn stuff. It's like, for example, like when you own a business, you have an LLC, you're like, man, like I don't want to do all of this stuff. But then you learn the tax code and you go, oh, everything's a fucking write-off. This is how the billionaires keep all their money. They're not breaking any rules. They're just playing by the rules, and they fucking figured out, they just actually read the rules and went, oh, this is how I can, funnel all my money in places where I don't have to pay taxes. Take that analogy into your personal life. Like take the billionaire corporate shitty capitalism stuff into your personal life. Like there are a way that if you play by the rules and you understand those rules, there are ways that you can find, whether it's positive influence or some type of capital gain. Very Capricorn analogies today. But Venus trining Uranus is like understanding that if you enjoy the rules and you play by the rules and you understand them, there is some type of breakthrough there. There is some type of creative spark of pleasure and fun and enjoyment where you can win, right? It's kind of like Monopoly. But as the moon makes the sextile to Saturn, I think this is also, Saturn in Aquarius is again very very like outcasting from society, a divided society. And a lot of the Aquarian analogy is like, someone, gets outcasted from society. Now they're all isolated and away from their tribe. But the moon in Sag making a sextile to Saturn is like kind of that moment where, it feels good. Like there's this level of, like when you're not accepted by a group of people, it can really hurt. But then, as emotions change and as time goes on, there's this sense of, fuck everybody. I'm going to go out and do my own thing. I have this freedom now. And as the moon sextile Saturn, there is this like enjoying the other side, enjoying this perspective. I've talked a lot about the Leo risings and how single they've been and the struggles in relationships. And it's so funny because now, I've talked to so many Leo clients, Leo rising clients lately, and they're all kind of starting to accept this, like, I've been really good about boundaries. Like, I'm actually really enjoying the space with relationships. I'm actually understanding what I want and what I don't want and what's going to work. And this is the end degrees of Saturn in Aquarius. This is our last hurrah with Saturn in Aquarius. This is the time to really take those lessons and see the good in them. Like, yes, Saturn is hardship, and yes, Saturn sucks in a lot of ways, but this is that time where we go, you know what? I got a lot out of this. I've matured, I've grown from this. And that moon in Sag sextiling it is enjoying the ride, saying, you know what? I see the bigger picture. I'm gonna have fun with it. The moon, though, on Thursday will make this square to Neptune, where, now that the sun's in Capricorn and it's very business, numbers, working, the moon making a square to Neptune is a little bit like clouded confusion. Again, this is a very dark moon at this point, so it might be like that after that sextile to Saturn, that excitement might wane. It's like, cool, I'm off to my thing, and then it's like, oh, it's time to actually get a little serious here. It's time to actually, like, the fun and excitement kind of runs out by this point. And the moon squaring Neptune is definitely like, oh shit, fuck, well, what's next? Where am I going now? And there's gonna be kind of a level of getting a little bit in your head. And it's just for a moment. So like if you feel a little bit in your head on Thursday, it's fine. Just know that it's temporary. It's not forever. But this is all building up to this new moon in Capricorn, where by the time we get into Friday, this is where everything really changes. The moon is going to go into Capricorn, and it's going to immediately square Jupiter. And this is the new moon in Capricorn. It's funny, this new moon in Capricorn is like literally squaring Jupiter, but the moon actually makes a square to Jupiter before it has this new moon. And squares are, I don't want to say just good, because nothing in astrology is just blatantly good or bad. It really is what you make of it. But Jupiter in Aries just wants to break through the wall, just wants to go to the other side and just fucking do it. But you need a plan. You need a system. You need an organization to do that stuff. A quote that I've heard recently that has really sat with me lately is, I think it's an Einstein quote, and I might be wrong. If you know this quote, please let me know in the comments below. Oh, and like this video if you like this video, comment for the algorithm, share this with your friends. If you're listening to this on Apple and Spotify, give me 5 stars. I'd love you forever. But I think the quote was, a fool with a plan will be more successful than, someone of high intelligence with no plan of action. And so this is one of those days where you need to temper out this excitement with a plan, right? You can't just say, I'm not gonna worry about the details. I'm just gonna fucking go for it. And that's the energy you want, but you also need to reel it in a little bit and say, what is the system of operation here? What is the plan that I have? Again, make a plan, stick to the plan, always deliver. I know it's a fucking child's movie, but it's it's one of those things, and they used it in a joking manner. If you've ever watched Storks, if you haven't watched Storks, you should watch it. It's super funny. But and they use it as like a joke, but it's such a good, God, it's so good. Make a plan, stick to the plan, always deliver. Really good life stuff. But this new moon is a time to say, really focus on this Capricorn area of your life. Let's go through the signs real quick. If you're a Capricorn rising, this is about you, your body, yourself. If you're a Sag rising, this is about your money, your finances, your resources. Really focusing all in this area of where do I need to make a plan? What am I looking at here? What do I need to reset? What do I need to restart? If you are a Scorpio rising, this is your 3rd house. Communication, technology, cars, short distance travel, siblings, neighbors. What do you need to handle in this area in a responsible way? If you're a Libra rising, your home, your family life, your living situation. What do you need to get a little bit of an adult grip on in this area? If you are what's next? If we're going backwards, a Virgo rising. This is your 5th house. Love, romance, sex, pleasure, hobbies, recreation, children. What do you need to get serious in this area about. We go to Leo rising. This is your 6th house of work, routine, day-to-day habits, health, pets. What do you need to get serious about and just stick to the plan with? If you are a Cancer rising, this is your 7th house of relationships. I always like Cancer risings because they're so funny. They're very like soft and innocent, and they're like, hi, I'm a Cancer rising, I love you, and let's nurture you. But in relationships, they're like, this is like, it's super traditional, super strict, super like, you either commit to me forever or die with me, and that's it. There's no leaving me. And this is in your 7th house, resetting your relationships. Like, what do you need to handle in this way? What do you need to be more serious about in this area? We're getting ready for a Mercury retrograde here, so we're going to be again, we're making all of these plans and we're doing something different here, and it's time to understand and undergo that change, undergo that transition. We talk about Gemini rising. This is your 8th house, debt, taxes, inheritance. Get your shit together, Gemini risings. Like, time to fucking get serious. We talk about Taurus risings. This is your 9th, this is your 9th house of your spirituality, your religion, higher education. So if you're in school, time to get your shit together with school. If you're, if you're publishing, if you're broadcasting, if you're traveling, get your plans together. And this is also a time of really looking at your belief system of what's going to work for you. If you're an Aries rising, this is all career and work stuff. It's time to make a plan and make these transitions go underway with your work and your career. And again, there's all of this ambition, there's all of this excitement, but you're not gonna get it done unless you have a plan, unless you have some type of system, and that system isn't efficient, that system's gotta be very simple. Capricorn is less is more. Capricorn is, it's gotta be black and white. It's gotta be legible. It can't be, mental gymnastics and all these confusing things. Make it stupid simple. It's that easy. Friday's looking excellent. I really like Friday. So then we get to Saturday. The moon is then going to make a conjunction with Venus and Mercury right after this new moon. Then it's going to make a sextile to Neptune while Mercury sextiles Neptune. So there's kind of a lot going on here. I know this kind of looks confusing with the glyphs. So as we get into Saturday, the moon is then going to actually just make an application to Venus and Mercury. Mercury's in Capricorn. Our minds are really focused on this area. Venus is in Capricorn. A lot of our pleasure and fun is focused on this area of, the serious stuff and of all the houses I just talked about with all the signs. As the moon conjoins all this stuff, this is like emotionally, like putting our emotional investment into this stuff, into the fun, into the intellect. It's like, when you take on a new hobby, or let's say you take on a new job, and, I understand jobs suck, but if you just let yourself have fun with it, like, I want to learn, like, let's say you're working in retail and you have to learn about the company's history and about the product. And it's like, some of that might be but not monotonous, but there's another part that just like lean into it, have fun with it. What goes into this product? How can I sell this product? How can I think you guys are picking up what I'm trying to say here, but Saturday's really just about emotionally investing into this stuff and really putting your heart into it. And it's all Capricorn, right? I talk a lot about the moon in Capricorn about being like emotionally detached, which is a part of it, right? Like, you don't need to be sensitive about this stuff, but this is the moon conjoining Venus and Mercury, right? In Capricorn. It's just business, toots. It's just business, babe. Like, it's just doing what needs to be done. It's no hard feelings, and it just is what it is, and this is all Capricorn stuff. We're talking about long-term commitment. We're talking about, again, like tradition and rules, and have fun with it, enjoy it. This is moon and Venus and Mercury. There's a lot of business is fun. I mean, I might be a Jupiter in Capricorn, but that shit's fun. Enjoy it. Don't like repel it. Don't get all scared about it. But Mercury right here is going to be making a sextile to Neptune, and the moon will make a sextile to Neptune too as well. The thing about Mercury sextiling Neptune is when you're all in this Capricorn stuff and you're in all this planning stuff, the Neptune and Pisces stuff is really good for the creative side of it. Neptune and Pisces is very vision. Yes, it's delusion, it's fantasy, it's mysticism. But like when it comes to ambition and it comes to like making goals, it requires, thinking outside of the box and not allowing, yourself to be placed in a box. Like Neptune is going to dissolve and distort things. And sometimes, not like, for example, Elon Musk, and let me just say too, I'm not the biggest fan of Elon Musk. I appreciate that out of all the billionaires, I like that he gives all of them a hard time. I think that's funny. I don't really like a lot of his businesses, except SpaceX. Landing rockets is sick as fuck. I'm a big rocket person. I've always been into astronomy and space exploration. Like October Sky was like my favorite movie as a kid. Landing rockets is dope as shit. And if you were to go and tell anyone that 20, 30 years ago, they would tell you it's never gonna happen. And he made it happen. This is that, and I'm using that as an analogy for this Capricorn Neptune stuff. Like Mercury and Capricorn sextiling Neptune. It's like, okay, well, what I believe might be, or what my vision is might not be possible in your framework, but if it were to be possible, how would it work? If it were to be possible, how would I do it? And I think as Mercury, and this is also Mercury in shadow too, right? This is and again, what I'm trying to say here is as Mercury's in shadow, this is beginning a transitionary phase. Like with all this new moon and Capricorn stuff, it's not about, oh, I'm just starting this and it's just gonna work this way. This is starting a transition. This is starting a change. This is starting, this isn't starting something brand new that's just going to work out the first time. This is a big change needs to be undergone here. And this is about initiating these transitions, right? Think of like a corporate merger. I know I'm being very Capricorn with my analogies today, but like a corporate merger, they're not just like, all right, we buy you and now we're done. It's like, oh shit, okay, how do their pensions work? How does their healthcare work? How are we going to mix these employees? What employees do we need? What employees do we not need? And as that deal gets sealed, which is the very new moon in Capricorn, it's like, okay, now that we've bought this other company or we're merging with this other company, how are things going to transition? That is what this new moon is about. Starting this transitionary phase. And I think as Mercury sextiling Neptune, it's kind of like a happy accident. Like, oh, I didn't know that we had access to this. I didn't know that we had, these resources. And Neptune is very creative and Neptune's very spiritual and Neptune is very like, sometimes it's good to, yes, I always talk shit about Neptune because it's very like, you thought, and oh, this isn't what you thought it was. But this is a sextile. This is a very gentle, harmonious, like push in the right direction where, there's this kind of inspiration to be creative and to see what the bigger picture is here. So I really like Mercury sextiling Neptune, and that's not the last one. And I will say as Mercury goes retrograde and sextiles Neptune, we will be revisiting this creative and like visionary way of looking at things. And it won't be bad, it just will be revisiting that in a sense where maybe we didn't have it the exact right way. Maybe we didn't have it just clear enough, which isn't necessarily bad. Like if it was Mercury squaring Neptune, I'd be like, this is not what it appears to be. If it was Mercury squaring Neptune, I'd be like, this is not what it appears to be. Don't get your hopes up. Versus this is like, oh, there might be a nice, harmonious, helpful hand here with, something that is very elusive and confusing and distorting. So I really like that. Then we go into Sunday. And then the moon is going to go into Aquarius and the moon is going to make a trine to Mars. And this is Christmas. And really the only thing here is, at least Christmas is on a Sunday, I guess. But this is just kind of like, it's a little weird. The reason being it's weird is as the moon's in Aquarius, it's kind of like, have you ever started a new job and there was all this excitement about the job? You're like, oh, this is cool. And then you kind of get like into your first week and all that hope, all of that like fun kind of fades away and you're like, oh, I'm at a job. Oh, I'm here at the store. And there's kind of like this, you don't know your coworkers yet, you don't know your boss, so there's this kind of hard to relate to the people that are around you. That's kind of what Sunday's like. It's like, all right, we're here, we're doing this, and it's that ambition and all that fun is kind of weighing away, but you're still there. Right? And as the moon's in Aquarius, again, this kind of like detached feeling with the people around you. I think the new employee or the new coworker thing is probably the best analogy because it's like Saturn's in Aquarius, maybe these employees you think they don't like you, maybe that your coworkers, you think they don't like you. And there's this kind of like, well, I want to be accepted by the people that are around me, but I don't know them yet. And the moon's going to be making this trine to Mars. Pick up a conversation. And it's not about like being like, hi, my name is Cameron and I'm doing this and this and that. You don't need to do that, but like, just say something nice, have a nice little, bring up a random topic, maybe not politics related, but like the moon making this trine to Mars, I think is understanding that, Mars is still retrograding in Gemini. We're still learning the ropes. We're still changing what actions that we're doing. Again, and this is why this Mercury retrograde is so important, is this is the first Mercury retrograde, and I know Mercury's not retrograde yet, it'll go next week, but this is the first Mercury retrograde with Mars retrograde. And that's important because Mars is in Mercury's sign. So Mars has been going through all of this Mercury stuff, and now Mercury's finally catching up to Mars and saying, okay, now this is what has to change. And I think as the moon makes this trine to Mars, there is this sense of kind of like, okay, I know that I'm doing something different, and I know that it's not going to just work naturally the first time. But I've got to extend my hand, and I've got to be the one that reaches out, and I've got to be the one that initiates these things. And so on Sunday, it's not, and I mean, this is Christmas. Most of you probably aren't going to be doing anything, but it's one of those things where you're now in it, you're now on the other side, you're now in this new job, and you know the product, the history of the company. Now it's time to actually do the work, and it's just kind of taking baby steps here. And you're not going to get, your first sale. There's so many Capricorn analogies here. You're not going to get your first sale with the first customer you talk to, but try them out. It's like, do the thing that they taught you to do, and see if that works. And then, eventually you'll be able to have your twist on it to where you get the sales or whatever. But this is just one of those days of just you're here and you're trying it out, and it's not going to be perfect, but that doesn't mean it's going to be a bad experience. It's just not going to be all of these exciting and amazing things. I mean, I think as the moon does ingress into Aquarius, it will slightly make this sextile to Jupiter for just a second. So there is this kind of cool, I'm here, I know everything, I'm a part of the team, but then there's this slow sense of detachment and just unfamiliarity, right? So it's okay to be unfamiliar, it's okay to not know, and this is all about trying things out. Mercury is about to go retrograde, and Mercury's gonna go retrograde next week, so you'll understand what needs to change during that time. But right now it's just about kind of start testing the waters and seeing what works. And as we go into next week, Venus sextiles Neptune. Awesome it's gonna last for 5 seconds, but it's great. It's not the most amazing transit in the world, but it is helpful. Venus will conjoin Mercury, and Mercury will station retrograde. Well, what's interesting is actually Venus and Mercury are going like this together, or actually, let me make it the correct way so you guys see it. Venus and Mercury are going like this. Mercury will slow down, and Venus will come up, but then Mercury immediately stations retrograde, and they both apply to each other. And so there's this kind of connecting the dots immediately next week of something changes, and you go, oh, this is what needs to change. And then it connects, you go, oh, this is how I can enjoy this work more. It's kind of if you've ever done sales before, some people really struggle with sales, and it's one of those things where you may not know something, and then someone, maybe a coworker says, hey, try this, and you go, oh, that's what I need to be doing. And it completely changes your process, but then it makes the sale easier. It makes the sale more fun. It makes you have more fun. Venus conjoins Pluto, where there is a little corruption in the game. There is a little bit of fear. There's a little bit of dread. And then Mercury will go retrograde and make a sextile to Neptune. So we were kind of coming back over this cloudy, confusion area that was, helpful for the creative side, but as Mercury goes retrograde and sextiles Neptune, it's revisiting that and saying, okay, what did I not see clearly and what did I see clearly, and how can I, again, use that to my advantage? This is a sextile, it's very harmonious. So that's what this week has, guys. I really like this week. This is a very powerful week. And you're talking to a Capricorn, Jupiter in Capricorn, my ascendant rulers in Capricorn. I love the Capricorn shit. And maybe I'm just a little bit excited about this, but this just seems insanely constructive. And we're talking about all of this stuff in Capricorn, where Mercury's going to go retrograde, and Mars is retrograding right now through Mercury's sign. So all of this information that we've had with Mars retrograde is all about now that we've had Mars retrograde for some time and we're relearning all of these things, this is the time to actually make these mental shifts. We have all of this new information, now it's time to make the mental shift. Now it's time to make the game plan change in order to, better go for whatever you're going for. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for listening and watching. I love and appreciate every single one of you, and I'll be seeing you next week.